because they won't be, so welcoming. They may be a little bit rude in the way that they're going to ask you things or just answer your questions. So it can be, and it's actually something that many tourists are complaining about French people when they travel to France. And when you travel to France, and on the other side, if you go, sorry, you want to pass?
Yes, please.
Hey guys, welcome to this new video. In today's video, as you see in the landscape, I'm not anymore in Vietnam. I'm right now in south of France, and actually I've been traveling over the last weeks in all France, and I want in this video to make a comparison between life in France versus in Vietnam. So I listed 7 items, so different components in the whole life, and I want in video to share with you my experience traveling in France and making a comparison how is life in Vietnam versus France. Let's get started. So the first point important about rating and ranking those two countries, it's about the transportation and ease to travel within the country. So obviously when we talk about France, we have a huge transportation systems, we have buses, we have railways, we have a big highway that we can take the car and travel very easily across the country. So everything is very well done, very convenient. But on the other side, of course, it's going to be more expensive, right? If you take a bus, if you take a railway to travel within France, it can cost 30, 40, 50 euro if you want to across the country. And on the other side, if we talk about Vietnam, if you take a bus from, for instance, Saigon to Da Nang, Saigon to Vung Tau, Saigon to Dalat, we're going to pay maybe $15, $20 only, but we're going to spend a lot of time in the bus. If we're in France, we can have nice trains, with a lot of comfort, everything is well done again. On the other hand, we got in Saigon, they are building very recently, it is not finished yet, the metro line. We got the metro line just running in Hanoi, so obviously the infrastructure are still under construction in Vietnam. And on the other sense, in France, obviously a very well-developed and established country, all those things has been done decades ago. So things are more established in France. So now we are in the middle of the town. This is a typical town of south of France. So you have the church, the post office, the schools, the mayor, etc. And you have all the stores around, coffee, restaurants. And when you travel to France, and especially to typical village like this one, you have a special architecture. So I've been right now traveling to Nantes, to Brittany, Bordeaux, south of France, Pays Basque. We went also in Spain, and every time you travel, you have typical architecture depending on the region. So this is something that is very nice when you travel to France. On the other side, when you travel to Vietnam, you have some old quarter depending in the cities. For instance, in Hoi An, in Dalat, you have actually this city that is called the Little Paris, and in Hanoi, in Ho Chi Minh City, you have old quarters with typical architecture. But if you go to France, you will have mostly different and typical architecture depending on the place you're going to travel. For instance, in north of France, you will have the houses that are white with black stone on the roof, and here in south of France, it's usually pink, or is usually this type of color you have in the rocks. So in overall, France are quite a wilder architecture style, and finally provide more diversity if you are traveling to France comparing to Vietnam. So this is a typical ambience that you find in cities in France. And finally, it leads to the third item about the cost of living. So obviously, if you travel to France, you will be in a traveling mood. So you go to hotel, restaurants, going out a lot and having a lot of outdoor experience. It's gonna cost you way more than what it can cost if you wanna have the same lifestyle in Vietnam. I live in Vietnam and I go almost every day to the restaurant 2-3 times sometimes, having coffee every time outside, having a drink after work with friends. And then if I want to recreate the same lifestyle here in France, it would probably cost me 2 times minimum. For instance, I usually spend around 1.5K per month to be living in Vietnam. Here in France, it would cost me probably 3 or 3.5 thousand euro per month. So depending on your budget, depending on how you want to have your life, go out a lot, do a lot of activities, or be someone that is more spending time at home, the lifestyle and what you will have for a similar budget will be really different if you compare living in Vietnam compared to France. As an example, I travel in south of France in the region of Bayonne, Biarritz. It's the Pays Basque, and over there, going outside, you will spend time in front of the beach, you will have coffee, restaurants, so you would wanna experience this kind of thing here. If you go to a place like Vung Tau, you can also have street food next to the beach, and probably it can cost you a few dollars per meal, let's say $5-6 in Vietnam for seafood. And if you wanna have the same type of meal in France here, you need to put on the table at least 15 or 20 euro per meal. So depending also on the place you want to stay, if you choose Airbnb, for instance, here you can have for a budget of 100, 150 per day an Airbnb, so an apartment very well located in the center of a town. For the same budget in Vietnam, you will have a 5-star hotel. So let's say if you have a budget per day of 30-40 euro, in France you won't be able to find a lot of things, maybe very small Airbnb, very far away from the city center. And for 30-40 euro per day in Vietnam, you can have a pretty good 3 or 4-star hotel inside the town you are targeting and you want to travel. Now the fourth item I want to discuss, it's about the food. So obviously as a French person, eating is very important. I spend a lot of time with friends enjoying meal, lunch and dinner, and even actually breakfast is very important for me. So I'm very happy to be able to compare both countries, and on this I think both of them have a very rich and diverse type of food. In France here, having very big steak, a lot of meat, a lot of veggies, even if we are right now during the winter in France, a lot of seafood because I travel next to the beach. And on the other side, if you talk about Vietnam, because the country is as well very big and have a very rich and diverse food, you can really have something that is fulfilling when you are going to restaurants. You can be a meat lover, you will find things to eat in Vietnam. You can be a seafood lover and also have very tasty meal that gonna be cooked with obviously Vietnamese recipes with a lot of side sauce, etc. And then for my perspective on this, both French and Vietnamese food is very rich and very tasty. So if you are someone who enjoy eating a lot like myself, both countries will really satisfy you. Now we come to the fifth point of this video and rating between both countries. It's about the weather. So actually today it's a sunny day, so I would say that it's not really fair for France, but on the other side I had very tough weather here during the summer. I spent almost the whole March here in France, and it's true that French weather can be very tough during the winter. So if you are someone who like to do outdoor activities and doesn't care so much about the rain and the cold, France can be suitable. But if you are someone who like hot countries, it may be a little bit difficult. Obviously, France will have 4 seasons, you know, so you have also a lot of different foods that come with the season, and it's also good sometimes to go during the autumn. You have, you know, a certain landscapes, a certain lifestyle, and then when you have the winter, you can do snowing, etc. It's not things that you will find in Vietnam. Even if in Vietnam you can have the 4 seasons in the north of Vietnam, if you choose to live in the south, we mostly have 2 seasons, so very hot season for about 7 months and a very humid and rainy seasons for about 4 months. So personally, because I like the sun, I like doing outdoor things a lot, I prefer Vietnam, but I understand that some people, they want to have something more cool, you know, they don't sweat too much. So in Vietnam, you may be able to find places such as Dalat. Maybe during the summer, it's about 20-25 degrees, so it's not too hot. And then you still have a more cold weather during the winter in Vietnam. So on this criteria, the points go to Vietnam because, you know, I can take my motorbike out, it's sunny every day, you can spend time after your work, you know, enjoying drinks with your friends outside, and even just having a coffee in the morning. It's 7, 8, 9, and you can be, you know, in t-shirt almost all time in this country. So now we come to the 6th point of this video. It's about the hospitality and the welcoming attitude of the local. So I've been traveling over the last weeks in different parts of France, and I had a very overall experience and then feedback to talk about this. So basically people are very friendly, you know, when we come here as a tourist, but on the other side I could see that sometimes, especially if you talk to French people in English, or, you know, if you don't know so much about the menu, etc., it can be a little bit tricky to deal with them because they won't be, you know, so welcoming. They may be a little bit rude in the way that they're going to ask you things or just answer your questions. So it can be, and it's actually something that many tourists are complaining about French people when they travel to France. On the other side, when I've been to Vietnam, I also had a very good overall experience about how locals are taking care of the customer, because in Vietnam you really have a service mindset. So it means that if you go to a restaurant or to an hotel, for instance, you are the customer, so basically you are the king. So basically the people who are going to take care of you, going to really put effort into serving you. In France, sometimes they may say that even if you are the customer, you know, you don't behave the way they want you or expect you to behave. So it may create some tiny struggles sometimes. And again, comparing this to my overall experience about Vietnam, traveling a lot for the last 5 years, I observe different ways of locals doing customer service, and on this criteria, my preference is going to Vietnam. So a funny experience to illustrate what I was just talking about is like for the last few days, I traveled with some friends in south of France in Bayonne, and we rented an Airbnb for 4 people. And so actually we booked for the Airbnb, but on the top of that, we had to pay 60 euro of cleaning fee. So I'm totally fine with that. The only thing is that they ask us to pay extra money to get the towel and the bed sheet, and then finally the landlord asks us when we check out that we have to take all the bed sheet, the towels, as well as taking out the trash from the apartment to clean everything in the kitchen. So finally I didn't really understand why they charge us as well 60 euro for a cleaning service, because finally they ask us to do everything. When I compare to Vietnam, this is not something that will be asked in Vietnam, and I'm pretty sure if you ask any person in Vietnam to do such a thing, they won't understand, because they will be the customers, so they will take this out of their mind. It is obvious that this is something the landlord has to do. Now we come to the 7th point and last point of this video. It's about the safety. So actually, because I've been living in Vietnam for 5 years, hanging out a lot, going home late sometime 2, 3, 4 a.m., sometime with a Grab guy, sometime by my own on the motorbike. I never feel any time unsafe, even being in a 10 million inhabitant city. So obviously I'm not saying that Vietnam is safe, is the safest country on the planet. You still have a lot of pickpockets. You can still find people that you can have problem with. But when I traveled to France, sometimes I feel a little bit insecure, especially in big cities. When you go out, it's 10, 11, if you are with your girlfriend or if you are with friends, and then you can see group of guys like going around and then kind of going around you, sometimes checking on you, sometimes don't necessarily do anything, but you feel that there is a climate and a situation on not really safety, and this is quite shocking when you live outside for a couple of years and when finally you come back to France and you realize that your place is not safe anymore. And I had actually a couple of friend girls that used to live in Vietnam and came back to France, and they even left their clothes in Vietnam, and they told me that here there is no way that they can wear those clothes. They could feel a little bit harassed. They could have guys doing on their back, etc. And it's something that is more and more present in France, and it's mostly developed countries. So when you come back again and wanna settle in France, this is something that may be a little bit a downside that come and become more and more important here. So here is the 7 points I wanted to discuss in this video. As you see, there is always pros and cons in each countries, but actually with my current lifestyle, my age, etc., and how I wanna have my life in the next upcoming years, I choose to be living in Vietnam, and I'm still very happy of this choice. It was still a very good pleasure for me to go back to France to spend time with my family, my friends. I couldn't catch up with them for over 2 years, but I'm still looking forward to come back to Vietnam in the next upcoming weeks. Hope you guys enjoy this video. Feel free to leave me a comment below and tell me your thoughts about maybe what the differences you observe between France and Vietnam. Tell me if I'm right or wrong on the observation I made, and I see you in the next video. Thank you, bye bye.
Been down and I'ma get it right, dead on sight like